Okay, let's unpack this. Last time, we left King Shantanu of Hastinapura. Well, he was ruling, sure, but emotionally, he was still in a pretty rough place, wasn't
Yeah,
there?
yeah. Ganga, his divine wife, had left him. So you have this powerful king, but inside there's this deep void, this vulnerability.
And that vulnerability, as we're about to get into, really sets the stage. It makes him susceptible, maybe even manipulable. And it leads to this crisis moment.
Exactly. That emotional state is key. Because what we're diving into today isn't just about Shantanu's feelings. It's about one single, really extraordinary vow.
Right.
An act that fundamentally changes the game for the entire Kuru dynasty. It rewrites the rules of succession.
So our mission today is figuring out how we got there, what led to this vow.
Precisely. We're looking at the moments, the motivations behind this massive sacrifice. It's pretty much the spark that ignites the whole Mahabharata narrative down the line.
And it starts almost accidentally, doesn't it? Shantanu's just out hunting one day near the Yamuna River.
Yeah, he's not exactly looking for a wife again. He's just existing in his sadness.
But then the sources say he smells this divine fragrance, like it just draws him in.
He follows it, drawn by this scent, and what does he find?
Satyavati, a young woman, daughter of the chief of the fishermen, just rowing a boat.
Yeah, it's quite the contrast, isn't it? A king, following this almost supernatural sign, finds himself captivated by someone, well, very much not royal.
Very earthly. And the attraction is instant.
Instantaneous.
Yeah.
And maybe because he was still heartbroken from Ganga, he just latches onto this new possibility. He gets obsessive fast.
So he doesn't waste time. He goes straight to her father to ask for her hand in marriage.
He does. But this is where it stops being a simple romance and turns into some serious political maneuvering.
Because the father sees his chance.
Oh, absolutely. The chief fisherman knows the king of Hastinapura wants his daughter. That's immense leverage. He's not just going to say yes.
So he lays down a condition.
A huge condition, non-negotiable, and incredibly smart from his perspective. He tells Shantanu straight up, "My daughter marries you only if her sons inherit the throne."
Wow. Okay. Not his first son, the existing heir. Her future sons.
Exactly. He's demanding the king completely rewrite the established Kuru line of succession. It's an ultimatum.
Now, here's something I've always wondered. Shantani's the king. Why couldn't he just say no? Or offer wealth, land, anything else? Why did this fisherman's condition hold so much power?
That's a great question. I think it's because the fisherman wasn't really after money. He wanted legitimacy, security for his daughter, and more importantly, for her children, his grandchildren.
Ah, okay. So if Shantanu just took her as a consort, or even a lesser wife.
Her sons would always be second class. They'd live under the shadow of the real heir, Devavrata. There'd be potential conflict, instability. The fisherman saw that.
He wanted an ironclad guarantee.
He did. He needed a sworn royal promise that his lineage would rule, uncontested. He basically forced Shantanu to weigh his personal desire against the political stability of his kingdom and his duty to his firstborn.
Which must have been just agonizing for Shantanu, because he already had an heir, Devavrata, his son with Ganga, a prince everyone acknowledged was worthy.
Right. To agree meant disinheriting Devavrata, a betrayal. How could he do that?
But he couldn't let Satyavati go either.
He was trapped, completely paralyzed. The sources say he went home torn and silent, just shut down.
And that silence, it makes you wonder, doesn't it? Was it just grief? Or was he maybe subconsciously putting the weight on Devavrata, like hoping his son would notice and fix it?
That's a fascinating and, I think, plausible reading. By not deciding, by showing his suffering so openly, maybe he was sending a silent plea.
And Devavrata definitely noticed. He saw his father was miserable, completely stuck.
Yeah, he saw the depth of his father's unhappiness. And apparently, motivated purely by love for his father, he decides to step in.
He doesn't confront his dad, though.
No, interestingly, he bypasses the king entirely. He sees the problem isn't really Shantanu anymore, it's the fisherman's condition. So he goes straight to the source.
To negotiate.
More like, to solve it. He seemed to understand that just talking wasn't going to cut it. The fisherman needed something absolute, something unprecedented.
Because the fisherman wasn't just worried about Devavrata himself, right? He was thinking long term.
Exactly. Devavrata might promise not to take the throne now, but what about his children? What if Devavrata had a powerful son later on who decided to challenge Satyavati's line?
Ah, the future threat. That makes sense.
That was the real sticking point, the potential challenge from Devavrata's descendants. So Devavrata knew he had to offer something. Well, the texts call it something extraordinary, a guarantee that covered not just him, but his entire potential future lineage.
And this is where we get to the vow itself, the terrible vow. It had two parts, right?
Two crucial parts, stated clearly to leave no room for doubt. First, the immediate political issue.
I renounce my claim to the throne.
Right. That removes him as the heir apparent. Satyavati's sons are now officially next in line. That satisfies the immediate demand.
But that wasn't enough.
No, because of that future threat. So Devarata added the second, truly shocking part. And more, I take a vow of lifelong celibacy.
Lifelong celibacy, meaning no children, ever.
Ever. He guarantees he will never father any child who could possibly one day challenge Satyavati's sons or grandsons for the throne. He completely removes his line from the equation.
Wow. That's almost unimaginable. To give up not just the kingdom, but family, children, everything for your father's happiness?
It's an extreme act of filial piety.
Yeah.
An incredible sacrifice. It really sealed the deal with the fishermen. There was nothing left to object to.
It just raises so many questions about the cost, you know? Was that loyalty ultimately wise or just tragic?
Well, the immediate reaction suggests it was seen as profoundly significant, perhaps even necessary in that moment. The sources say the heavens themselves reacted.
Right, the heavens trembled at his words.
Gods showered flowers from the sky, and voices, the divine voices declared his new name right then and there.
Bhishma.
Bhishma, meaning the one who made the terrible vow, or the awesome vow, depending on translation. But yes, defined by this very act, he becomes Bhishma, the embodiment of that sacrifice.
So his identity is forever tied to this moment of renunciation. He's not just Prince Devarata anymore.
He is the vow.
Mm-hmm.
And this divine confirmation sort of locks it in. Everyone knows this vow is serious, it's binding, it's cosmically recognized.
Okay, so the fisherman is satisfied. Devarata is now Bhishma. What about Shantanu? He gets what he wanted, Satyavati, but his son just sacrificed his entire future. How does a father even respond to that?
He must have felt immense guilt, surely.
Yeah.
He couldn't undo the vow, couldn't give the throne back. Bhishma wouldn't have accepted it anyway.
So what could he give him?
He gave him something extraordinary in return, a compensation that sort of matched the scale of the sacrifice, but in a different realm, power over something fundamental,
Which was
control over his own death. Shantanu granted Bhishma a boon.
the boon of Ichmarityu.
Exactly. Shantanu declared, "You shall choose the moment of your death. None shall ever take your life without your consent."
So, in losing the right to rule, the right to have a family, he gains sovereignty over his own end, control over his own mortality.
It's a profound trade-off. Ultimate selflessness rewarded with a form of ultimate control. It's the king's way of acknowledging the immense sacrifice, ensuring that while Bhishma gave up his political future, he retained absolute power over his physical existence.
Like the kind of power great yogis strive for, but given for this active duty.
Precisely. It links ascetic levels of control directly to a sacrifice for the sake of the kingdom, or at least for the sake of the king's happiness.
So if we pull back and look at the whole sequence, Bhishma's vow wasn't just a personal tragedy or a noble act. It was the pivotal moment, wasn't it? The action that basically steered the Kuru dynasty towards its destiny.
Absolutely. You can draw a straight line from this vow to the Kurukshetra war. By removing himself, the strongest, most legitimate, divinely born heir Bhishma created a power vacuum.
He ensured the throne had to pass through Satyavati's line.
A line that, as it turned out, was less stable, less inherently strong. And this instability plagued the kingdom almost immediately.
Because Satyavati's sons, didn't they die young? Or without heirs themselves?
They did. Vichitravirya, the one who eventually ruled, died without children initially. This left the throne perpetually vulnerable, lacking clear, strong leadership right from the start.
And Bhishma, because of his vow, he couldn't step in and take charge even when things got rocky.
He was bound. His oath forced him into the role of protector, the regent, the guardian of this fragile lineage. He had to support his stepbrothers and later their children, the Pandavas and Kauravas, even as things started going downhill.
Even when they made bad decisions or became corrupt.
His vow of loyalty was absolute. He was politically paralyzed. He couldn't challenge the rulers he was sworn to protect, even if their actions were leading towards disaster. He was the strongest warrior, the wisest counsel, but he couldn't act against the throne.
Wow, so here's where it gets really interesting. His incredible act of loyalty, the sacrifice made to ensure his father's peace, actually created a situation where he couldn't intervene later to prevent conflict or injustice.
Exactly. The vow became a shackle. It allowed dysfunction and eventually outright evil to fester, because the one person with the moral authority and power to potentially stop it had sworn never to claim that power.
He was the ultimate guardian, but he couldn't guard against the internal decay.
He refused the crown to bring peace to his father. But ironically, that refusal guaranteed that future generations would fight a devastating war over the very throne he wouldn't sit on.
So the central paradox of Bhishma's life really stems from this one moment. This incredible act of love and loyalty leads to a lifetime of being bound, celibate, unable to rule, yet forever tied to the fate of the throne he gave away.
He becomes the silent, powerful witness and sometimes enforcer of its tragic trajectory, a lifetime defined by what he gave up.
It's a heavy legacy.
It is. It leaves us with a final thought, something for you, the listener, to consider. Bhishma gets this unique boon, choosing his death, specifically because of the vow. He gains ultimate control over his end as a reward for relinquishing all other control, political, personal, familial.
What does that connection tell us?
Well, what does it suggest about power in this world? If ultimate control over one's destiny is granted only after renouncing all worldly power and desire, what does that imply about the true nature of influence, sacrifice, and maybe even fate itself within the moral universe of the Mahabharata?